Gonna knock out a little scouting video. We just brought the canoe, access some public. It's kind of hard to reach by any other means. Maybe if we're lucky to find a few sheds, but otherwise I'll just show you a bunch of good deer sign and see how scouting videos do. Playing with time lapse, seeing what we can do with that. We'll see what we find. Pretty good start here where we're freaking landing the canoe. Got a heck of a crossing here. Got some crop fields over there on the other side of the tree line. Got some thick timber here. We're about to go through some bed area. There's a lot of heavy crossings where they're tearing this bank up. Going over there. Hopefully we find some antlers in here, but I'm not gonna hold our breath on that. So here in Kansas, obviously they ain't too worried about the timber. You can see these trees where they came in here and cut them. Conservation guys will come in here, cut these bad boys. Some of them they'll hinge cut. Some of them they'll freaking just cut a ring around, just enough to kill them, and leave them standing. And I'm not really 100% totally sure why they do it, but they definitely have been here recently and trimmed up a lot of this. These hinge cuts probably help draw in some more deer for bedding. Obviously it ain't good for the timber, but it makes it thick undergrowth in here and deer seem like that. Not really totally sure when they came in and did it, but it hasn't been long. I just walked through a big pile of bush rubs and got a fairly active ground scrape here. I mean, this is getting to be late March and they still pawing the ground. You got it beat up. Ground holds tracks really well this time of year, so these trails look more impressive than ever. You know, one of my hobbies is bow making. And these bow dark or these hedge trees make really good bows. And I don't know, I might have to talk to conservation guys, see if I can't come in and cut that out. I can get a lot of bow staves out of that thing. And that's get up here and walk it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, we got at least 70 plus inches of straight section of bow dark or hedge there. I can get a pile of bow staves out of. Hopefully this will help out some of you guys planning on coming in from out of state and do some Kansas public ground hunting. And land them on a day I won't mention by name, but you get a lot of public ground around the headwaters of a lot of these small lakes in Kansas. A lot of state and Corps engineer land. And it's pretty easy to find. You get on Onyx or get on the Kansas Parks and Wildlife website. There's actually a flock of turkeys over there. I don't know how well they're going to translate in the video. Interrupting my little talk about here. But anyways, you can get on the Parks and Wildlife website and you can bring up interactive map, or you can get on Onyx and look at the maps on there and you can find these. And a lot of these public lands also have walk-in hunting access areas that's really close to or attached to them that opens up a lot of options too. And a lot of them you'll see on this is an old soybean field. You get timbers, good field around them, old buck scrape. Turkeys running across the field over there. I don't know if you can see them. There's another field over there I'm going to eventually work to. I can see a couple strutters on the far side of it. That's a good sign. I'm only a couple weeks from youth turkey season, so little turkey scouting right now is kind of nice. But as you can see, there's plenty of trees. Squirrel. Plenty of trees out here if you want to get elevated. Bring climber or saddle. I like a saddle hunt. Another option I really like to stress, and most people won't play with, is hunting from the ground. I have a turkey pack with a kickstand made by Alps. Man, look at this that trail. And I'll find these heavy trails and I'll set up something like that brush top right there. I'll tuck up in there, cut me a little shooting lane out, or break off some twigs. And I mean, I'm finding deer 10 yards, 15 yards. Killed my biggest deer ever this year using the same tactic. These animals just don't know how to respond to a human on the ground sitting there in the dirt. They almost have a stare down with you, or a standoff. They're not used to a human predator being on the ground. They're used to being up in a tree. They're used to their ground threats being a bobcat or coyote, which they usually react a little different to. So when they see me sitting down there in the dirt, they don't really know what to think. I can't believe they came here and chopped all this up, but it looks good. A couple more bow staves there. Black locust makes good bows too. Hopefully this video kind of gives some of you guys an idea of what kind of land to look at, where to look for it at, and potentially some of the ways you want to hunt it. I mean, there's plenty of options. Whether you want to set up a ground blind, that's probably my least favorite. Get up in a tree, or my most favorite, sit down in the dirt, get in this grass, tuck up in it. Well, let's see what else we can find. We got a heck of a trail coming down that bank over there, crossing this creek here. Pretty good one going up that bank. A couple more down through here. I personally like to track these creeks, and they're kind of my initial start points for finding choke points for these deer while I do my travel hunts when I hit other states. And a lot of times I'll jump on the imagery and find a place that looks interesting to me. And in such as this one, we got a couple fields, we got a lot of thick timber, we got another type of fields over here on the other side, some cattle pastures and croplands, and just several different types of terrain that comes together. But then on the imagery, I'll zoom in on these creeks and find these rock bars. And you can see them pretty well, unless it's flooded or something. You can see there's water, rock bar, water. And most of the time, those are good start points to find heavy pinch points on deer crossings. These deer will come together across here and then spread back out through this terrain, however they're going to do. But when I'm hitting somewhere, as I'm going to Missouri or Oklahoma or one of these states I've never been, or going to a spot I've never been, it allows me to really get on the deer pretty quick and not spend as much time beating up the woods trying to find them. Just like I was just talking about, we got another one of these rock bar crossings here. Pretty shallow. Got some deep creek on each side, and then they're just using the heck out of it, and they're just beating it up. This one is a little less obvious on the imagery. I just happened to find it by coincidence, but definitely a good choke point. Get on some deer in a quickness. They are using this one heavy right now. A little later in the year I get a trail camera on this, but next few months it's a dangerous time to have trail cameras on public land, turkey hunters and shed hunters cover a lot of ground. Mushroom hunters, they tend to like to take trail cameras with them. So one thing Kansas is really good about is they like to mark their public lands, and you can see this sign here. Pretty much all their state land, Corps engineer land, so on, they'll be marked with these signs. One side of the sign says public hunting. Obviously the other side, if you're on the public looking back, I'm gonna let you know you got private on the other end. State does a really good job maintaining trails and roads around these public grounds. They work a group or deal with the local farmers, and they plant crops on them. You can see this field I'm walking up on. This was a old Milo field before it got harvested. And there's good trails coming in here, allowing the farm equipment come in, but also the maintenance crews, and they come in and cut trees or trim up trails, whatever. They keep these trails in real good shape. Easy to get carts down. You can kill a Kansas deer, you're gonna need a deer cart. It's easy to get these carts down and all that. And right here by the road entrance, and freaking bushes rubbed up. They freaking, I guess they got every bush along this tree line rubbed. Not gonna lie, this wouldn't be the first place I'd come to hunt. But it's a good sign right here. I like to get a little bit further away from the access. Go where most others ain't gonna go, but I mean, I did bring a youth hunter in here this year, and far end of this field, killed his first buck ever, velvet antlered 9-point. It was a spot and stalk kind of situation, so we didn't get it on video, but successful hunt nonetheless. Great day anytime a kid gets on their first deer. Good looking little spot here. Probably a big community scrape. Probably come back and drop a camera on this later this year. See what happens. Come in June or so. June, August. These here, you can see this kind of like thick brush stuff here, or these little 10, 15, 20 foot tall, they're called pawpaw trees. They actually put off a little melon thing, or kind of like a mango, little green fruit. Looks a lot like a mango. I discovered these bucks like to bed in them. And I don't necessarily have a buck bed right here to show you, but it's a pretty good trail coming through here. But they have big dark green leaves, a lot like a fig tree, and hold out a lot of light, especially early season, and it gets real cool under them. And once you get under them, they open up a lot, but you can't really see into them when they got them leaves on them. And definitely seems to stimulate a lot of buck bedding. Personally, I like set in them in the early season when I still got leaves, especially on something like that scrape back there. Set up in them and be able to see out of them, but they can't see into there very well. I actually killed a pretty good 8-point in Missouri this year on a little out-of-state hunt with a bunch of buddies. Speaking of a bed, there's a bed right here outside of them. But I set up in a grove of pawpaw trees and had me hid pretty good, and had about a 100-inch 8-point pushing some does come by me. Heard dozes before rut, so hadn't really got into chasing yet. But he came out there and gave me a really good shot. I sunk one into him about 32, 33 yards, just a little more than 30. And he actually looped around me and ran into the pawpaw grove behind me and died probably less than 20 yards from me. He died closer to me than what he was when I shot him. Yeah, I just flew a couple more turkeys off. Turkeys are here, that's for sure. I'm back at the canoe now. get loaded up and get out of here. Supposed to got pretty good rain on me this evening, so go home and stay dry. Hopefully get home before I get wet. Found this pretty awesome piece of old barnwood out there. I'm gonna take that home, add it to the junk pile. It'll turn into a pretty cool turkey mount, fan mount, or something. I'll have a kid somewheres this spring or fall kill a turkey or a good deer, and we'll present it on that, make them a little barnwood mount. You can get the canoe in the water and get heading back.